Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and move on to the Western Conference. Similar to what we did for the Eastern Conference, we'll start off with our Western Conference standing predictions.
So at number 1, I have the Nuggets. At number 2, I have the Suns. At number 3, I have the Lakers. At number 4, I have the Kings. At number 5, I have the Grizzlies. At number 6, I have Minnesota. Number 7, I have OKC. Number 8, I have Dallas. Number 9, I have the Clippers. And 10, I have the Warriors.
Woo! Woo!
I can already tell you right now that the Warriors are not finishing 10th in the Western Conference.
That's when we get to the hot takes, man.
Hey, number 1, Nuggets. Number 2, Suns. Number 3, Lakers. Number 4, Kings. Number 5, Memphis. Number 6, Dallas. Number 7, Warriors. Number 8, Clippers. Number 9, Minnesota. And then number 10, I got the Pelicans. Pelicans might have to be higher for me, though. I just got to see if Zion comes in the first 10 games looking healthy.
I mean, he'll look good the first 10 games, but will he be there for you after game 25?
Man, OKC, though, I'm missing out OKC, too?
Like, the thing is, though, like,
oh, man.
Pelicans didn't even make my top 10.
Like, nah, I'm taking Pelicans out. OKC's top 10. What the hell? And
they're a better team. They're a better. OKC's a better team.
My thing is, though, like, I'm taxing. Like, now I'm really, really taxing teams that get injured. Like, the Clippers, I have them at 9, and I have the Pelicans at 11. Like, I'm taxing teams that get injured. Because, like, now you got to prove to me that you're going to stay healthy. Because, like, Zion could get injured again. And the likelihood.
Clippers, even with their injuries, they always still maintain that.
And they're kind of. The thing is, the Clippers are kind of mid in the regular season, regardless of what goes on. So, I have them there.
Mid enough to be number 9?
Yeah. They're generally. Like, the thing is, when they're like, I remember after the All-Star break, they're kind of a mid team, even when Paul George came back. Like, they were getting wins here and there, and then of course here and there they're also losing at the same time. Like, I feel like they're generally not regular season performers with how much they load manage and the injuries that they get. So this team just has to prove to me that they're regular season performers in the first place.
Man, that 6 through 10 for me was tough.
I like your first 5 though.
It's pretty. Western Conference is always going to be tough. Let me go ahead and get to my predictions. At number 1, I have the Denver Nuggets. At number 2, I have the Lakers. At number 3, I have the Suns. At number 4, I have the Warriors. Number 5, I have the Kings. At number 6, I have the Clippers. 7, I have Dallas. 8, I have Minnesota. At number 9, I have Memphis. At number 10, I have the Pelicans. So that pretty much rounds out my top 10 for the Western Conference.
You don't got OKC either.
I have OKC as the team that's outside of the bubble, sitting at number 11. They're better than the last 4 teams on the list, but they're going to be one of those teams that are just going to be competing from 10 to 11. I can't see these guys being any better than. Actually, they could be better than Memphis. That's probably the one team I'd probably put them over. Them in New Orleans. And New Orleans is just really based on health.
I think people are just too high on the Warriors. That's why.
I feel like you're a little too high on the Warriors again.
They still have the same team. Like, aside from adding Chris Paul. How did they get any worse than what they did last year?
Chris Paul's ass. That's how they got worse. Chris Paul's on the roster. Like, they lost their key bench piece in Jordan Poole. They got worse.
See, the thing is, as time went on, I've kind of opened up to the idea of Chris Paul.
Oh, there you go.
I've opened up. I've opened up. Hear me out. Hear me out.
He's gonna run the bench. He's gonna run the bench with Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody.
Chris Paul is the player that the Warriors have been missing. I understand Jordan Poole is still the better player than Chris Paul. The trade to me till this day is still stupid. I think when you think of the Golden State Warriors, obviously they're going to be competing whenever you have a guy like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green on your roster. There's really no room for you to think about the future when they started thinking too far ahead into the future, they started going into this double timeline gimmick, and that didn't necessarily end well for them. Jordan Poole's gone, James Wiseman is gone, and now it's big years coming up for Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. And so there's a lot of pressure on those two guys to perform, or else those guys are probably going to get shipped off in this next offseason. But the reason why I've opened up to the idea of Chris Paul, being successful on this team is, number one, he's not going to be asked to do a lot on this team, aside from running the second unit and really just controlling the offense. And that's kind of what they've been missing. The Warriors were a very turnover-heavy team last year. Half of it was because of Jordan Poole's erratic play. But at the same time, though, the downside of it is on one end, you lose a guy that's going to play 82 games for you. But on the other end, though, with a guy like Chris Paul, the turnovers are going to go down. There's no way the turnovers are going to remain the same or get worse when Chris Paul is running the show. And so when you ask Chris Paul to just come in and relieve Steph Curry from his point guard duties while he's resting up for 6-7 minutes in that second quarter, in that third quarter, you can sit back and be comfortable knowing that Chris Paul is going to be able to run the show regardless of who's out there on the court. Now, do I think this team is like an NBA Finals contending team with Chris Paul on this roster? Absolutely not. But I think they're going to be able to get the best out of Chris Paul just based on the fact that he's not going to be asked to do much for this team, and he's going to be able to command the second unit like how Steve Kerr wants him to. But I've opened up to the idea. Now, don't kill me necessarily if it doesn't end up panning out how I expected it to pan out, but from what I've seen in preseason, it's looking pretty well. And I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to be one of the people that benefit the most out of Chris Paul being on the second unit with him.
I just don't see it with the entire Warriors roster. I mean, Clay's play can be up and down. His play could be, one night Klay Thompson's 27, the next night, he's off. Like his play can be up and down. Draymond does not offer the same level of scoring as he did back in 2016. He's just not a scoring threat whatsoever. Neither is Kevon Looney. The same, Andrew Wiggins is probably their second best scorer, on a consistent basis. And even then, I don't know how reliable that is. This team to me is just, it seems like it's aged, past its prime. When I look at it, Klay Thompson is not the Klay Thompson of old. Draymond Green, of course, not the same. Defensively, he's always going to be good, but offensively, I just don't see it. And then when you look at this bench unit, yeah, Chris Paul can provide some things, but even then, Chris Paul, the version that we saw in the playoffs against the Clippers, that's the version of Chris Paul that we should expect. I don't see health being able to be reasonable for him. I don't know if he's going to be able to remain healthy, and two, I don't know if he's ever going to, be able to provide a positive impact versus what he brings on his downsides, which is, he's not going to be a scoring threat anymore, and at the same time, he's going to get picked on defense. So, I just question, Chris Paul's entire fit into the Warriors, team, and I just question the whole roster in of itself. I just don't believe that they're as talented as they used to be.
I mean, this roster is still relatively the same roster that they had when they won the championship. They're missing a couple of guys like, one Jordan Poole and then a couple other pieces here and there. But when you look at this roster from top to bottom, you got to remember they have Steph Curry on this roster, so there's just absolutely no way these guys can finish.
The West is also much better than when they won it in 2022.
How much better has the West gone from last year? Because these guys, even though we look at the Warriors last year and all of their struggles, they're one of the worst road teams in all of basketball, one of the best home teams. Being one of the best home teams in all of basketball is going to continue for this upcoming season. That's never going to change. They have one of the best home courts in all of basketball. What they do away is going to be a lot better than what they did last year, just based on the fact that they can't be that worse again on the road. And so they finished last year as the 6th seed with 44 wins. And you're telling me,
look how many wins everybody else had right next to them, though. They're all relatively next to them.
It was all relatively close. But you're telling me with Steph Curry on this roster, these guys are going to get, without Jordan Poole, these guys are going to get so much worse than what they were last year?
It's not Jordan Poole, it's the rest of the roster. I kind of question that and the combination of the West getting better. I mean,
and they still haven't, adjusted, what was making them lose last year. They still haven't fixed that. It's still the same issue that's still there.
Like when you look at the West, the West. You have the Lakers there, you have the Kings there. Of course, you have the Nuggets there. You have the Suns there. Minnesota's still looming around. You have OKC that just got better. Dallas, they added some pieces to their roster. Clippers, they're a big question mark. Can they stay healthy? And Pelicans. I know we have discussion every year about these teams, but we have to discuss in hypotheticals when we look at the Western Conference. And, when I look at these rosters that these teams have, I don't see it where I look at the Warriors roster and I'm like, okay, yeah, they're substantially better than teams that are 6 through 10. I just don't see it at all. I feel like they kind of fall within that range of those teams. And usually if I have a team just sitting at 10, it means 10 through 6 are about 2 wins apart from each other.
Okay, when you explain it that way, that's fair to say, because the way I'm looking at it in the West, last year they finished at 6, and the teams above them were the Clippers, the Suns, the Kings, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets. The Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns, now we add the Lakers into the mix when they're healthy. You could potentially throw in the Kings in there as well. Those are 4 guaranteed teams that are probably going to be better than the Warriors. Every other team after that, I really don't see any move that they made in this past offseason that got them, that I can confidently say, okay, yeah, these guys made a crazy move, a good move. They're better than the Warriors now. They're all relatively close. So I just feel like these guys, if you take away the Memphis Grizzlies from what they did last year, that's a team that's going to fall off. You add the Lakers into the mix. There's already 4 or 5 guaranteed teams that are going to be better than the Warriors. Every other team after that, I'm more confident in what they have in comparison to what, not hypothetically speaking, but at number 7 on my list is the Dallas Mavericks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think the Warriors have a pretty well constructed roster to be better than a lot of these teams. But those other 4 teams that I mentioned above, I can't see those guys. I can't see the Warriors being better than those guys because they don't have the roster and they don't have the offensive firepower to compete with any of those guys. But to have them on 9, it makes sense based on your explanation, saying that everything from 10 through 6 is relatively close, 2 games out. But aside from the Golden State Warriors, though, the Memphis Grizzlies, that's the one team I think might just fall off the face of the earth with Ja Morant being suspended 25 games. I got him at 9. I forgot where you guys had him at.
I had him at 5. I think Big H had him around 5 or 6, something like that.
That's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy just because this team has shown time and time again that they can adjust when Ja Morant has gone out of the lineup. Yes, they've lost Tyus Jones, and they've inserted Marcus Smart now into their lineup. But this team, whenever they've been able to play without Ja Morant, I think they have like 18-11 record now the past 2 seasons without Ja Morant. Like every single time Ja Morant has gone out the lineup, this team has been able to adjust. Their head coach Taylor Jenkins is able to adjust. This team, they have pieces in place to be able to play. Desmond Bane, his averages with Ja Morant go out, they skyrocket. Jaren Jackson, same thing. Xavier, the issue where I think it's going to lie for them is the loss of Steven Adams for the rest of the season. That's where it's going to hurt. And I eventually can see them making a move for a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, one of these, these bigs they can plug in and play. Because losing Steven Adams is the big hurt. I think Ja Morant, that they can survive 25 games. And that's the thing that's important for them. Can they survive those first 25 games without Ja Morant? 100% I believe they can. They've proven it time and time again that they're able to do that. They're able to rely on their role players and their guys like Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson. And I expect no less coming up this season.
I just got back. What was the question?
The Grizzlies, why we have them at 5.
Why do you have the Grizzlies at 5, Big H?
I like they have a very well built roster, especially with I forgot the center that's coming back. I know Steven Adams is done for the year, but the other center,
Xavier Tillman.
Was Xavier Tillman?
Not the one that got hurt. Brandon Clark.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
The addition of Marcus Smart, the addition of Rose, and obviously having Ja and Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane. I feel like the roster's still good. Defensively, I feel like they're going to take another step in Marcus Smart. I feel like
I think they can survive without Ja those first 20 games.
I feel like
25 games. You guys think Ja Morant, without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies can keep their head above water?
They've proven it time and time again.
No, let me say this. Yeah, you've been said this in the past before, and you always brought up every time we brought up Memphis and why their record was so high. You always say, hey, Ja missed 20-something games, and they went 13-7, or they went 15-3 without Ja. You brought that up the last couple of seasons. They have winning records without Ja playing at all. So for them to, that first 25 games, I feel like they can weather the storm.
Survive.
They can weather the storm. Obviously, Desmond Bane's going to have to step up. Jaren Jackson.
And that's a guy that I expect to step up. Like, I 100% believe Desmond Bane's average is just going to go up. He's going to average like 25 better.
He's going to get number 1 looks. They're going to rely on him a lot. He's going to have the ball a lot. And, I don't know what Rose is going to bring to the table, but leadership and age. I don't know what he has left in the gas tank, but he's going to bring something.
And they have Marcus Smart as well now.
Marcus Smart's going to be a lot for them. So I feel like, they can weather.
Yeah, Marcus Smart is not no crazy upgrade, guys.
He's a contributor, though. That's the thing,
I think first 25 games, my expectation them go 15-10. Whether the Storm 15-10 is right there is positive. At least you have a winning record. I don't expect them to go 20-5. I don't expect them to go 17-8 or 19-5 or 6. I expect them to weather the storm 15-10, and then when Ja comes back, that's your superstar. That's when you take off.
This is the Western Conference we're talking about, guys. It's not the Eastern Conference where you can miss your star for 25 games and you can be just fine.
We've seen them compete without Ja, though. That's not an issue. We've seen them compete against the Lakers without Ja in the playoffs, and they went next.
This is 20. This is you guys are getting mistaken and getting fooled with the record of without Ja off the court. This is 25 consecutive games without Ja Morant. They've never gone 25 consecutive games without Ja Morant. It's maybe been 1 to 2 games. You probably load manage him on a Tuesday night in Toronto, and then you probably have him back the next night on a Thursday night when they play the Milwaukee Bucks. That's how they load. That's how they survive and keep their head above waters without Ja. Now it's completely different. It's 25 straight games from game 1 to game 25 all about just without Ja Morant.
Remaining at least 500. That's a goal for them. They're not thinking, okay, we got to be top 3, top 4 in the conference. The Western Conference is going to stay relatively close. No one's going to, besides maybe the Nuggets and the Suns, no one's really going to just go out of reach from everybody else. And maybe nobody's going to stay out gonna run away from everybody else. I think everybody's gonna stay. You're gonna have teams that are 18-7 in that first 25 games. You're gonna have the Nuggets who are probably gonna be 20-5 or something like that. You're gonna have the Lakers that might be. You have the Lakers that are gonna be 18-7 or 17.
I don't expect to see the Kings. I don't expect to see the Kings go 23-2 the first 25 games. I don't expect Dallas to be 20-5 the first 25 games. I don't expect the Warriors to be 20-5. They're Memphis is gonna be right there in the middle of the pack with them.
15-10, and that's what they need. 15-10. Yeah. They can do that.
I'm gonna call it right now. These guys are gonna be below 500 by the time Ja Morant gets back. There's absolutely no way these guys keep their head above waters for 25.
I mean, if they're 14-11, I mean, they can't really complain. If they're 14, but if they go what 10 and 15.
Or 10 and
they're going to finish. They're going to start off the season below 500 those first 25 games up until Ja Morant gets back. Because I understand they acquired Marcus Smart to kind of keep the ship afloat until they get back Ja Morant. They had a Derrick Rose, but they're still missing they're still missing a huge piece of their offense. And like I said, it's different when you lose a guy for 1 to 2 games on load management night or an injury night in comparison to 25 straight games. This is something that they've never seen before. They've never gone 5-10 games alone without Ja Morant. So for me, I think they're going to start off the season extremely slow. Ja Morant's going to have a lot of carrying that he has to do when he gets back. So that's why I have him at number 9 for sure. But I'm booking it right now. That's one of my things I'm going to put on record. That these guys will start below 500.
We can go through the first 25 games. I think they can get those 15 W's. Looking at
the thing is with the NBA, man, you just never know. It's any given night. It's just like football, man. The games where they're supposed to win, they might just not have it that night, and you just really never know. But 25 straight games without Ja Morant, these guys will not come out above 500 when he's ready to come back.
Nah, you tripping. We're gonna get back to that.
Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get back to that. But teams that are outside the bubble, I think we have relatively close teams. We have the Trailblazers that are going to be outside of the bubble. We have the Houston Rockets outside of the bubble, San Antonio and Utah. All 4 of those teams will not be competing for any playing spot. I think they understand that they're looking towards the future. But Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings. We'll start with the Kings. You guys think they regress from what they did last year?
I mean, maybe the offense is going to take a slight regression, which is normal. They're not going to be at the historic levels that they were, but I think this team is going to still relatively play at that same fast pace. They're going to be shooting a lot. They're going to be going up and down, and I don't expect them to take a massive dive. I just think the Lakers are going to be probably going to be a more stable team than they'll be, but the Kings, I have them at my 4th seed, and I think that's relatively fair to have them at. I think this team's offense is just too consistent, too good, night in and night out, with a guy like De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, who's a good, regular season performer, and the Mike Brown offense that they've kind of instilled with a bunch of shooters around. I think this team's going to be, good enough to continue to be that 4th seed. They're a young roster, so I expect them to continue to improve.
Yeah, offensively, I don't expect them to keep up the same paces and efficiency that they had last year. They set some records last year offensively. I don't expect them to keep that up, but I feel like, this is still a young team. This is still a team that we seen last year compete against the Warriors team that, everybody holds high regards for. I think this Kings team's not gonna have any regression. I feel like the only way up for them is to go up, and they have that type of roster. I feel like Fox can take that next step forward. Keegan Murray can take that next step forward. They have some bonus that's already solidified. You have some nice bench players, coming off the bench, and Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell. So I feel like they got the key pieces to that team. They have some, they have their star players and a great head coach. So I expect them to be better. I expect them to compete, and I don't see regression from this team.
Yeah, I don't see a regression either. I think for me, I made a mistake actually. I think I had them ahead of Golden State. I'd probably swap them. They'll probably be my 4th seed. Move the Warriors down 5. These guys are going to be competing each and every night, and especially with the way they play the offense with Mike Brown leading the way, these guys will be able to compete. So I have no question. These guys will continue to do what they did last year. I think they're going to get some huge step forwards from guys like Keegan Murray, and those guys will be able to play a lot better than what they did last year. But moving on from the Sacramento Kings, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, we know they acquired Kyrie Irving at the trade deadline last year, but Mark Cuban decided to pull the plug early and tank for a top draft pick, so they avoid giving it to the New York Knicks. What should we expect from the Dallas Mavericks in the year 2 of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic's experiment?
The thing is, though, with me, I'm keeping my expectations low, but I wouldn't be surprised in the least bit if this team was like a top 4 seed, top 5 seed. Offense was not the problem with this team. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, offensively, they were essentially flawless. They're putting up numbers nightly. The problem is on the defensive end. Some of that was contributed because of Luka Doncic, but majority they didn't have rebounding, they didn't have rim presence. Dwight Powell's a good contributor. He's a solid backup, but he's not a starting level center in my opinion. He's not a rim protector. He's not a big rebounder kind of guy. So they went out and got defense personnel. They got Grant Williams. They went out and they drafted Derek Lively. One of my favorite prospects in the draft. The elite rim protector, who's their guy that they can continue to groom and get prepared for that center role. They drafted Omax. Omax Prosper, and I think that they've added defensive personnel, but
Richard Holmes.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes as well. I think they acquired him as well. So they've added pieces. I kind of have him at the 8th seed just because I'm more so on like a prove it type of basis. But this team's ceiling is very, very high. Having Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving surrounding them with defense personnel, and a guy who, I don't have him as my breakout player, but I would not be surprised if he broke out as Josh Green. Like in any lineup that he was alongside Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, this guy was absolutely amazing. He attacking closeouts, spot ups from 3. Couple seasons ago, he wasn't able to do that stuff, and he's rapidly improving. And so that's another guy that I think is going to take a step forward at this team. So I have him at the 8th seed, but I would not be surprised if they ended up being a top 4 seed.
I got them, top 6, and I kind of like like I just said, they added some length up front. They got Derek Lively, they Rashard Holmes, they signed Derek Jones Jr. And I feel like Kyrie and Luka this year, I feel like they're gonna mesh even better. I feel like last year during the trade deadline, Luka was pretty sure he was hurt when Kyrie came back, and then Kyrie got hurt, and Luka played some games, and then Kyrie came back, and they finally started going, but I feel like it wasn't enough games for them to mesh and get used to each other. I feel like this year they got a different type of roster. I like them getting Seth Curry. They got another, ball handler, shooter coming off the bench for them, and then them getting Grant Williams. It just adds more defensive beef to the team. And I think it's a good little roster they got there. So I feel like Kyrie and Luka, they're gonna cook up, immediately to start the year. You got Kyrie locked in. He's there. So I feel like he's gonna come in. He's gonna start cooking. So for me, it's Luka, Kyrie, 2 star players, and then a bunch of great role players that got to step up and show up. And defensively, they got to play better, especially Luka. I'm tired of seeing Luka every time not get a call on the offensive end and just start complaining to the ref and not run back. And then it's just half-assed on defense. And that happens too much times, and you see it 3 or 4 times a game. And it's like, it's going to cost your team. And that happened a lot towards the end of the season last year. So, I expect Luka to have a different mindset. I don't like that complaining on the, every time you don't get a call, just, get back, play some defense, help your team, play defense. So I expect this year defensively for them to be better, but they can make a top 4 push.
Okay, I mean that's fair to say, but lower lower your expectations for Luka when it comes to complaining to the referees. I think that's gonna
I'm
naturally
not. I'm
carry
not. I'm
over.
not. I'm not saying lower my expectation. I'm just saying what I don't like. You know, I don't like seeing that. I don't like people
Expect that though. Don't I don't
Yeah,
think
I'm
I
just
think you're going into the season expecting that he's gonna just miraculously
nah.
not
Hey, we gonna
complain. That's something
we
that
gonna
he's gonna continue to do,
yeah,
and that's a huge problem in this game. And I 100% agree with you on that. But
it's nasty.
I can't
It's
see
nasty.
it. I just can't see it stopping
There's two
whatsoever.
games last year. I think it was like back to back against the Hornets where it was extremely close, and they lost both those games. And coming down late games, there was like 3 or 4 calls where he just stopped and he did not get back on defense. He was just yelling at the ref, and I'm just like, yo, it's 126, 125. Get back on defense. It's 4-on-5, and it cost him 2 games in a row. So for me, I don't like that. It's disgusting, and if he doesn't change it, it's gonna cost him a lot more games.
Hopefully that isn't the case. But for me, I'm actually really excited to watch this duo of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic going into the season. Last year, I had my question marks about this fit as the Dallas Mavericks made a move at the trade deadline to get a guy like Kyrie. But I think this is finally time for Kyrie to put the league once again on notice. We saw some glimpses. We saw some flashes, last year. I think he had a very solid year last year. And if it wasn't for his antics off of the court, he would have made all NBA. I feel like he still has that. He's still that type of player. He's still an all NBA level type of player. And you're only pairing him alongside another all NBA type of player. So these guys are going to be able to compete each and every night. These guys are going to be one of the best scoring punches in the league. And so with the full offseason, with the full training camp to get used to each other, these guys can go ahead and easily get more than what their win total was last year and whatever Vegas has them at right now at the over-under. So I'm really excited to see how this duel is going to pan out, but expect a big year from Kyrie Irving for sure. I think Kyrie Irving, once again, with all the drama off the court, we're going to be reminded of who he is as a basketball as a basketball player on the court. So aside from all that, let's go ahead and get to these over-under win totals. At number 1, we have the Dallas Mavericks at 43.5.
Ooh, 43.5. I'm gonna go with over.
Last year, these guys had less than that for sure, about like 38.
38, 39 last year.
I have him at 43 wins, but I'm not mad if you go 40. I'll go 44, so I'll go with the over.
I'm saying they're gonna be a top 6 seed in the West. Yeah, I gotta go with the over.
I think I'm gonna go under here. Denver Nuggets 52.5 wins. They finished last year with 53 wins.
Over.
Next, we have the Golden State Warriors at 47.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 44 wins.
Under.
Houston Rockets 31.5 wins.
Hold on. I'm not gonna let that slide. You said you had the Warriors as a top 5 seed, right?
Yeah.
You can't pick under, have them as a top 5 seed.
I mean, the 5th seed last year only had 44 wins. I think it's going to be relatively close in the Western Conference, and Vegas got him at 47.5. So
that's crazy.
if they win 48 games, then that means these guys are going to be competing for a top 3 seed in the West. I can't see that. The 3rd seed last year had 48 wins, and that was Sacramento, and they played the best brand of basketball.
You're right.
That still wasn't enough to get them the top 2 seed.
That's crazy. I ain't know that.
So 47.5 is a lot, and I think even with the new load management rules, these guys are still going to be able to find ways to not play the majority of their guys, to kind of just have to coast through the regular season like they've been doing this last couple of years. So 47.5 wins. I'm going under on that. They could probably hover around 44 to 46. They just won't get 48. Next, we have the Houston Rockets, 31.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 22, but they acquired Fred VanVleet. They were pretty active in the market. Dylan Brooks, Amen Thompson, Jalen Greenleaf. What do we have him at?
Over.
I got him over. I'm excited to see Jabari Smith play this year.
It's another guy I completely forgot to mention as well. I'm going to go ahead and go over on this one. Next, we have the Los Angeles Clippers, 45.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 44 wins as the 5th seed.
Under.
45.
45.5.
Clippers, Kawhi, PG. I got him over.
I'm going to go ahead and go under. They find a way to load and manage those two guys throughout the season. This one is interesting. Los Angeles Lakers, 46.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 43 wins as the 7th seed.
I'm going to go with the over on this one.
You know what I'm thinking, baby. I got the over.
If I was a betting man, I would definitely take the over on this 46.5 wins. This is an absolute steal. This is just based on the health and Vegas is not taking into account how much better their roster got. So I'm going over on that. Memphis Grizzlies, over under 45.5 wins. Last year they had 51 wins. Ja Morant suspension, 25 games.
I'll go with the over still. Still confident they can get 46 wins.
I'll go with the over.
Y'all are crazy. I'm going under on this one. Next, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves at 45.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 42 wins. Karl-Anthony Towns did miss majority of last season.
Crazy because I have them at 45 wins. I'll go with the under on this one.
I'm gonna go under.
I think the West is too competitive, so I'm going to go ahead and go under, but they'll be somewhere between 42 to 44. Next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans at 44.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 42 wins. Zion did miss majority of last season as well. They did deal with their injuries.
Under. Zion, I don't trust his health.
I'm going under.
I'm going over. I think these guys somehow, some way try to figure it out. If they're able to stay healthy, that's just their main key. Oklahoma City Thunder, 45.5 wins. Last year they finished with 40 wins. It's going to be an interesting answer from you, Abdi.
I have them at 44 wins. I have them just at the under. I think they're going to go plus 4 wins, but the West is just too competitive. Like that 6 through 10 spot is just going to be like 44, 45, 43, 44. Like everybody's going to be around the same range. So I have them at 44 wins. I'm just at the under.
I'm going to have them under as well. I feel like, the addition of Chet coming back this year, I feel like they're going to be even better. But even in this West, better to me is 2 to 3 games. I still don't think they're going to hit that 45 mark.
I'm going under on this one. The Phoenix Suns, the new look Phoenix Suns, over under 52.5 wins after acquiring Bradley Beal this offseason. Last year, they finished with 45 wins.
I'll go with the under, but I have them at like 50 wins.
I got them over. I feel like season-wise last year, they were meshing when KD came. They got on a little win streak with him. I feel like this year, season-wise, it's going to be completely the same. With Bradley Beal, I don't see them, miss a step.
52 wins is a lot in the Western Conference, man. If the Denver Nuggets are at 52, they'll probably go over that, but I can't see Phoenix being more than a 50-51 win team, so I'm going to go under. Portland Trailblazers, over under 27.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 33 wins, but Damian Lillard was on this roster.
I'll go with the under on this one.
Under,
but I do think they'll be a fun team to watch. Last year, not last year, but next we have the Sacramento Kings at 44.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 48 wins.
I'll go with the over.
Over.
San Antonio Spurs, 28.5 wins. Last year, they finished with 22 wins, which earned them Victor Wembanyama.
I'll take the over on this one.
Over. No, I'm a Spurs fan this year. I got stock in them.
It's like having Tesla stock, bro. How does that work?
I'm just saying. Too high. It's not too high. I invested all my money in there though, so I got a good.
It's actually like having Bitcoin stock, to be honest, bro. How do you invest in Victor Wembanyama?
I was an investor with Tim Duncan back in the days. I just had to get back in, make a couple phone calls.
That's ridiculous. I have these guys going over though, 28.5 wins. Last but not least, we have the Utah Jazz at 35.5 wins. Last year, they were able to win 37 wins, 37 games. Lauri Markkanen was, I think, the most improved player last year.
I have them at the under.
I think, they go under.
They go under by a lot.
Yeah, they slowed down towards the end of the season. They slowed down a lot.
I remember we were talking about the Utah Jazz being a good, top playoff team. Then they ended up falling off the face of the earth. I got these guys going under for sure. Next, we'll go ahead and move on to our Western Conference breakout players. Of course, obviously we have our top guys in an honorable mention.
Well, my top guy that I think is going to have a breakout year is Devin Vassell. I think kind of just his...
I fucks with his game.
That guy's tough, man. I just like his play style. He's a nice little, mid-range creator. The guy went under the radar, of course, because he's in the Western Conference. He's on a tanking team, but he averaged about 18, 19 points per game, shooting 38, 39% from three. He was super efficient in how he just played. And I think now, playing alongside a guy like Wemby playing off of him, I think that's going to improve his game a lot. his assist totals are definitely going to go up, and now he's going to, a lot of the attention is going to shift over to Wimby, and then Devin Vassell is going to be able to create his shot on his own. So I think the guy just in his ability to score, it's very, very underrated, and he's kind of a fun player to watch. If you've ever watched Spurs games, especially in the play-ins, Devin Vassell's been kind of the guy in their go-to. They've been their go-to guy in these playing games. So now I'm a fan of him. My other breakout player is Jonathan Kuminga. I think this is going to be the year where the Warriors actually decide to utilize him. Coming out the draft, this guy, he had some perks in terms of his ability to be an isolation scorer. He was stupidly athletic, but it seems like the Warriors kind of, fell out of favor with him. They didn't really utilize him in the playoffs this past year. And now I think he's going to take that chance by storm. He looks, amazing in the preseason. He's going to be a guy who's going to work well with Chris Paul. He's going to be a guy that's going to get to spots. He cuts a lot. I think his shot has been improving. His ability to score one-on-one has been going up, and I think he's going to be another breakout player for me.
For me, I got two guys right here, Jabari Smith and Keegan Murray. I feel like these two guys, especially Jabari Smith, after seeing him play in the Summer League, and him just being more confident in his shot and attacking the rim and just being much more confident. I feel like offensively he could take that next leap. Last year, everything we said about the Rockets, we said their system was kind of messed up. It was kind of just a free flow type basketball, and it was just, just who can get their own type of basket, and it was no type of offensive movement or motion or anything. But like this year under, Udoka, they're going to have a much better system. The ball's going to get swung, the ball's going to get passed. You got Jalen Green, you got FVV, you got Amen Thompson as your guards. And then, Jabari Smith is your key big, and I feel like he's going to be the one to contribute on that offensive side of the ball as that 4-5 guy for the team necessarily. And I just like the fit on the roster. I feel like, Udoka coming from coaching Tatum and Jaylen Brown, those type of 6'9", 6'10" versatile power forward, small forward type builds. He's gonna fix up his offensive game. He's gonna get him sharp. So for me, Jabari Smith number one, and then Keegan Murray, I feel like he has to take that next step forward. We've seen him as a shooter. We've seen him, last year, moments of him, glimpses of him play good in the Warriors series in the playoffs, and he just got to be more confident. He just got to start attacking the basket more and just, finding his shot more, and be that. I feel like, offensively, you got Fox as your one, and then it kind of floats around for the rest of the team. Maybe it's Sabonis one night, maybe Malik Monk one night, and maybe it's, it's Keegan Murray sometimes. Maybe, it's for him to step up, maybe get that number 2 spot, secure that scoring, be that second scoring option on the team. So we'll see what happens, but I got some 2 young guys to cook up.
Yeah, Keegan Murray was definitely a guy I had on my list. I do think he has the ability to step up. He's going to be asked to do a lot more for this Kings team. But for me, my Western Conference breakout player, Big H, you might like this one, but I got Austin Reeves as my Western Conference breakout player. Even though last year we saw some flashes, we saw him kind of take that third scoring option role alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I think now LeBron James and AD and Darwin Ham understand that this is a guy that they can consistently rely on as a scorer. Even though his game isn't appealing, obviously him foul baiting and things of that nature, the guy can go out and get you a bucket when you need it. And if you have LeBron James's trust, there's absolutely nothing you can do. There's nothing that can go wrong when you have LeBron's trust. And so I think Austin Reeves can go ahead and take a leap from what he did last year, even though I think he had a pretty solid year last year from what we saw from him the second half of the season. From 13 points per game, shooting 52% from the field and 39% from 3. I think he can still have the same shooting splits, but he can be a way better scorer. He could average a lot more points than what he's averaging right now. So if he can make that jump from 13 points per game all the way up to at least 17 to 19 points per game for sure when you play alongside LeBron James and AD, because the buckets are going to come freely. The minutes will be there. He'll be on the court for a lot of the time. And so I think Austin Reeves he has the ability and he has an opportunity to go ahead and take that breakout leap, as the Lakers hope and expect him to. Another guy that I have on my list after Keegan Murray is Shaedon Sharpe, because I feel like, even though he last year was a down year for the Portland Trailblazers, he only averaged 10 points, shooting 47% from the field and 36% from 3. Now he has a bigger opportunity to do what he wants, and he's on a team that's going to play extremely freely, because it's a very, very young team. It's a very, very exciting team. He can really go out there and, put up a little more than what he's putting up from what he put up last year, 10 points per game. So I feel like he's going to be able to showcase all of his talents just based on the fact that these guys aren't necessarily competing for anything. So it's just going to be free flowing basketball. You get a bucket, I get a bucket. You know, going from him, Anthony Simons to Scoot Henderson, those three guys are going to be a full joy.
You muted.
Yeah, number one for me would be Austin Reeves, and number two would be Shaden Sharp, and then Keegan Murray as well. But that pretty much wraps up our Western Conference breakout players of the season, of the year.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.